Hey, what's up guys? Allyn with Electronix, and today's Q&A question is from Doyer and from Facebook. And his question is, what do I do with the blue, the orange, and other wires that are not used when hooking up my stereo? Well, that's a good question, and that's one of the reasons why we chose this question. We actually get that question a lot from people calling in on the phones, from our tech department, etc. So I figured it would be a good one to choose so we can kind of just give you a few examples of what to do with those leftover wires. So here we go. Got a few examples for you. I got two different harnesses for two different radios. These are the radio side. And then I've got two different aftermarket harnesses that will plug into the factory side. So typically, you're gonna be receiving, obviously with your stereo, your harness here, and your car side. I'm gonna open this up and show you a couple examples. But before I open it up, this is your typical SCOS HA02B 86 and up Honda harness that works on many, many different cars in a particular year range. And before you just get crazy and start ripping it open, we're gonna open this nicely, and then we're gonna show you the reason why. So there's our harness. But this is the reason why we opened it up nicely. And this may seem actually really simple for most of you out there because you've done this maybe 100 times over, but for a lot of guys who are just getting into car audio, maybe only ever wired up a couple radios before. On the back of the bag, and most manufacturers give you this, it gives you a list and a description of the wire colors and actually what they do. So yellow, constant, red, ignition, slash switched, black chassis ground, etc., all the way down to your speaker wires, your illuminations, your power antenna, your factory amp turn on, etc. So, and at the bottom, it does tell you to cap and isolate all unused individual wires to prevent a short. So that is the main purpose of this video, is to prevent a short, you blowing a fuse, damaging your stereo, damaging something in the vehicle, is basically to cap and isolate the unused wires. And some harnesses may just only have one unused wire. Some may have like 5, it just depends. This is more of a premium harness, which would have other wires that may not work or need to be connected with your particular application with your aftermarket radio, such as a reverse wire, vehicle speed sense, and some other ones. But for this particular demo, we're just gonna show you a real basic harness from a basic radio and a basic harness like this, and not a premium harness. Now, the main thing with installing a radio is pretty much, if you look at this, it's all color for color, yellow to yellow, black to black, red to red, blue to blue, etc., all the way down until everything's connected. Taking a closer look at this harness, there's pretty much one big difference in this harness, and that this particular harness has an orange wire, which is your illumination. This particular radio, you don't see an orange wire. So it's not the end of the world. That just means that this particular radio does not support an illumination function. So that means when you turn your headlights on, if this did have that and this was connected, your radio would dim. So we get a lot of people calling, oh my gosh, this is not gonna work if I don't connect this. There's a missing wire, or there's a missing wire on this harness because this one has it. This is for my car and this should have had it. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that this particular radio doesn't support that. Now, just in the same manner, this particular harness has a parking brake wire, a mute wire, a reverse wire. So as you can see, this particular radio has a few other connections that may require you to go outside of this regular harness to go other places in the vehicle to get that. Or on a premium harness like this premium harness would typically have those extra wires that would connect to this harness. But if you need this premium harness to install an aftermarket radio in your car, but you went with a basic radio, you're gonna have quite a few extra wires. So here's a few tips. I've just kind of made a little pigtail here with a few wires in it. So there's a few different things you can do to isolate this. There is using a butt connector and just using one side here, which we'll take our stripper here and strip the wire back. And then we will just butt connect that there. So now nothing's gonna short. This is, capped off essentially. Or you could use a crimp cap just like this here. And now nothing can short here. Now, some of you guys may not have extra connectors. Another option, which I don't have any here, would be to use some shrink tube. Just put a little sleeve of shrink tube over there, get your lighter, heat it up, and then that way it's also essentially isolated as well too. I'm sure for those of you that installed some radios before, you know that sometimes having a bunch of extra connectors on your wires that are unused, it take up unwanted space, and some vehicles do not have a lot of room behind the dash, so you wind up with a tree of a mess, and you don't want that, and that's kind of annoying. So the solder and shrink tube method's obviously cleaner. Using the shrink tube to cap off obviously keeps the harness slimmer. Another option would be, we'll cut this back off here to show you, just basically taking your extra leftover wires here, and then we're going to cut that at an angle. And now you can see what we've done is all the wires are at a different angle. So if you were to just basically take this and put some shrink tube over that, they're not going to touch because they're all at different angles. Or you could take some tape and then you can just tape that up. However you decide to do it, in whatever method, the take home here is to really just make sure you isolate the unused wires so you prevent any shorts. I've seen people where they come in and something's not working in their car and they'll just leave a unwanted wire just like that with the copper showing, and it's just shoved behind the dash. And whether that be on the car side or on the radio side, it's just tapping the chassis ground, and that's not typically a good thing, obviously. Another thing you can do, we're almost done here, but figured I'd share one more thing with you. Now this is something you're gonna wanna think about before you do it, because I don't wanna encourage any of you guys to destroy a harness, but let's just say you're installing this radio and you've got an aftermarket 4-channel amplifier. Obviously you're not gonna be using and connecting the speaker wires. These are gonna be a bunch of unwanted wires. So you obviously could just tape them off, cap them off just like I said, or you can actually de-pin the harness. Now, of course, while doing this, keep in mind, once this is de-pinned, the harness for that particular feature for the speaker wires and wiring it up is pretty much unusable. But as you can see, now you've just got your necessary cables here. You've got your constant, your switch power, your remote, your ground, and your illumination if your radio supports it. And then you've just eliminated this extra bundle. However, you're typically not going to go back unless you really wanted to dissect this thing and put it back in. But for a few dollar harness, it's probably not really worth it. So like I said, just think about that before you do it. And also, another thing you might want to do when installing it is just to keep it cleaner. Obviously you can see this ground wire is way too long. You don't need to just do that and connect it there. Cut everything all the same size, and that way you have one nice, simple, clean harness with all your wires either de-pinned, capped off, isolated, etc. So that way you prevent all shorts. So anyway, Doyer, hopefully this answered your question, and hopefully some of you out there that are maybe installing a radio for the first time gain some knowledge from just simple tips that you can do to ensure that, one, your harness is connected properly, and two, that you prevent any shorts from happening while installing your radio. I'm Allyn with Sonic Electronics. Thank you for watching. Submit those questions and watch all of our channels from Facebook to Instagram, and comment and give us more, and we appreciate you watching. Thank you. See you next time.